Okay, 10:30 it is Central Time. That's me on the right and Floyd on the left wearing ties. Remember ties? Yeah, I don't see anybody wearing ties anymore. Isn't that odd? Well, except people in Congress. Oh, I love that. Somebody activated their camera. Beautiful. Well, Anna tells me we had close to 100 people registered for this webinar. Thank you so much for your interest in this topic. It's one of my favorite topics and one of Floyd's too. You know, he's been giving us advice for, well, 40 years about building courage, developing that characteristic called courage, and that character called confidence. And one of his best pieces of advice, he's given this to me like, I don't know, 400 times over the years that we've worked together. And it's this: what would you do if you had no choice? You know, whenever you're confronted with a difficult situation, Floyd, I can't get in the door in this FISBO. Well, what would you do if you had no choice? And when you ask yourself that question, boy, all kinds of excuses go right out the window. I love that question. What would you do if you had no choice? Today's subject, courage, confidence, is really about exercising choice when you're confronted with a situation that needs courage or confidence. Now, Mary and I have just watched a documentary, a very interesting documentary about the battle for Constantinople in 1453. 23 different armies tried to take that city over the years, and the 24th one succeeded. And it's a really interesting documentary because there's talking heads, professors talking about the actual historical events, and then there's a dramatization of it. And the battle is, ooh, icky and bloody, wow. And I'm thinking, how did those people have the courage, knowing they were going to get hacked to pieces, to run into battle? That's courage. Wow. So let's connect for just a minute before we dive into the subject matter. And I have a hypothetical question for you, and that's, what would you do? Not if you had no choice, but what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? I know many people have asked that question before. I love pondering that because the truth is, yes, we are all bulletproof. That's the truth. The truth is, you can't fail. But if you knew in advance you couldn't fail, wouldn't that take all the fun out of it? I think it might. Well, it's not fear of failing that stops us, it's fear itself. You remember Franklin Roosevelt's great quote, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." But when it comes to courage, one image always comes to my mind, and that's the famous image of Bert Lahr as the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz, and that wonderful song he sings about courage that ends with the line, "What makes the Hottentots so hot? What do they got that I ain't got?" Yep, that's it, courage. And they all agree. So over the years, teaching Floyd's program, building protecting that legacy that he's given us, I have seen people transformed from frightened sheep into Superman and Wonder Woman. Yeah, because during the program, they developed that thing called courage and confidence. They're almost two sides of the same coin. So this morning, here's what I propose. In the few minutes we're together, I want to give you the 5 ways that we give our students to develop their confidence and their courage, to develop courage first, and then the one best way that we teach throughout the program that will build your confidence no matter what the situation is or what you're confronted with. And a couple 100,000 people have gone through our program, so I know it works. But here's what I would ask that you do this morning. Treat this webinar like it's a buffet. Isn't that a nice looking buffet? Yeah, take all you want, leave what you don't, but eat what you take. Fair enough? Okay, so here we go. Let's dive into the 5 ways to develop courage, and the one best way to build confidence. Here's the first one. You will be more courageous if you raise your standards. Now, here's the first thing we have to do with our students is teach them how to raise their standards. And the first thing we teach them is, before you go on a listing appointment, make sure both the decision makers are going to be there. Now, how does that give you courage? Well, it eliminates one-legged appointments. You know, he's there, she's not, or she's there and he's not. And that gets really discouraging. See the juxtaposition? Courage and discourage? Yes. So if you know in advance that both decision makers are going to be there, it gives you courage, bucks you up. Yep, how do you know that? Well, you ask. It's very simple. Before you go on the appointment, you ask. And you make sure that you have enough time. Nothing more discouraging than being rushed out the door. Oh, I got to get to bowling, you know. Oh, we have somebody else coming over in an hour. Yeah, I heard a story from Mary. One of her students was at a listing appointment and the doorbell rang and it was another agent. Yeah. They'd only given her a 1-hour appointment. So make sure you have enough time. How do you do that? Well, you ask. You're gonna be home till 8 anyway? Okay, I'll get there as close to 6 as I can. Yep. Make sure you have enough information to do a ballpark market analysis. You know, how do you find that out? Well, you ask. Make sure you've asked them why they're thinking of selling. What are their goals or objectives? What are they trying to accomplish in selling? And most important, find out what kind of price they're thinking. Well, how do I do that? Well, you ask. What do you folks think it's worth? Sounds nice. What are homes like yours going for these days? Gee, how much do you owe? How much cash do you need? If you ask those questions, you're going to figure out this is what they're thinking in terms of price. Why does that give you courage? Because you can prepare. Most listings are lost at pricing, right? Yes, they are. Well, they're lost on the phone. But when it comes to pricing, it develops into an argument. And it shouldn't be. It just should be 3 people putting their heads together to come up with the right number. And if you know in advance what they're thinking in terms of price, well, that's what makes it easier for you to be courageous throughout the appointment. And that's just the first thing we teach our students. When they apply standards to their appointments, it gives us courage. Do you know, Floyd has said this many times, the biggest mistake new people make is thinking they have to work with everybody, thinking they have to go on every appointment. You don't. Just work with the people that you like, who'll work with you and not fight you. Go on the appointments where you have a shot to get it, and you'll have more courage. Here's the second thing we teach our students. On the way to the appointment, you want to be telling yourself a few things. See, if you go over to the house hoping to get that listing, needing that listing, it's too soon. You say this to yourself on the way. I'm not going over to see if I can get the listing. I'm going over to see if I even want the listing. And if I want it, I'll do them a favor and I'll take it. Yeah, that's a positive affirmation. If you say that enough times, you'll begin to believe it, and you won't assume the posture of begging when you get there. That's a reverse courage. Yeah, on the way, state out loud, I'm not going over to see if I can get the listing. I'm going over to see if I even want. If I want it, I'll do them a favor and I'll take it. Boy, by the time you get to that door, if you say this enough, by the time you get to that door, Wonder Woman, Superman, that's how you'll feel. And nothing they say will knock you off track. You with me so far? Good. Here's the third thing. You need to develop one habit, just one, and you'll find the courage you need. One habit, not that kind of habit. No, I mean a conversational habit. I mean a guts gauge habit. This is it, and it's really simple. It's maybe the most powerful thing Floyd ever taught me. And here it is. Build the habit of asking for what you want 3 times. Never any more, just never any less. Or fewer if you want to be grammatically correct. Yeah. Always ask for what you want 3 times. Make that a habit. If you're on an appointment, if you're on a phone call, no matter what situation you're in, you know what you want, whether it's a signature or it's a deposit or it's a full price offer, whatever it is that you want, ask for it 3 different times, never any more. I mean, some people say ask until they submit. No, that's going to ruin relationships. You don't want to do that. Just 3 times, never any more. And if you'll do that, you'll almost always get with what you want and not be pushy. Pushy doesn't take courage. Pushy takes being deaf, to what people really want and who they are and the relationship you want to preserve. So it's a courageous thing to do, but it's simple. And when you make it a habit, all of a sudden you're courageous. Yeah. See, courage doesn't mean an absence of fear. Bravery is not an absence of fear. Courage and bravery are just going ahead anyway, despite the fear, right? Of course. Okay, here's number 4. Yep, let go. Let go. Let go of what? Well, of the end result. Like Floyd says, don't go on the appointment just because you want it. Just go and do what it is you were taught to do. If you'll do the activity, the results will be there. You can control doing the activity. We can't control the end result. That's not really up to us. That's up to a higher power. Yeah. Take things one step at a time in your doing, in your activity, and stay on track. That's why that top 5 things to do every day is so important, because it gives you courage. It also gives you direction, which is a good thing. Courage and direction. Take things one step at a time, stay on track. All right, that's number 4. And here is the 5th way that you can develop courage. Oh, I see already some of you have turned away from the screen. Ah, yes, for sale by owner. Floyd was at an awards banquet for a large company out in California a few years back. And during the ceremony, and it was right after the dinner. It was a big dinner and then a ceremony. You know how companies used to do that? Well, a brand new agent sat down next to him. A brand new agent said, "Mr. Whitman, I'm just getting started. What's the best piece of advice you could give me to get off to a fast start in real estate?" And Floyd said, "Go visit 4 or 5 for sale by owners a day, 5 days a week for a month. And you will build the skill that you need. You'll build the skill of being able to talk to people who are thinking of selling." So, how do I do this? Watch this. Here's what you do. Drive by a for sale by owner. Are you with me so far? Yeah, that doesn't take any courage. Drive by, and before you get all the way by, stop the car. Yeah, stop the car and get out. Remember, Arnold, get out. Yes, stop the car, get out, and walk up to the door. So far, not so bad, unless they've got a pit bull in the front yard. I've never seen that, but it's possible, I guess. So drive by, stop, get out, walk up to the door, ring the bell, or knock if the bell doesn't work, and wait until they come to the door. Now, if nobody's home, what should you do? I'd leave a note. Who's showing your house when you're not home? But if somebody answers the door, here's what you do. Say something. Okay? You do this 4 or 5 times a day. And within a month, you will have courage. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, say what? What should I say? Well, remember this, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say because you can't fail. I hope you understand that and you believe it as deeply as we do. It doesn't matter. Eventually, you'll figure out what works and what doesn't work. I've never known of anybody to be shot by a for sale by owner. I maybe hollered at once in a while, but for the most part, they're pretty nice. So let's go back to how to develop courage number 5. Drive by a FSBO, stop the car, get out, walk to the door, ring the bell, say something. And it doesn't matter. Oh, you're thinking this, oh, I could never. God, do you know how many times I've heard that in a program? Every time we teach a new dialogue, because that's really the key to building your confidence. It's the one best way to build your confidence, and that is to learn the Whitman Method of dialogue selling. And it's like every time we introduce a new dialogue in the program, somebody gets that look on their face. I could never say that. And then we practice it on each other. You know, we do that thing called role play, either the get your feet wet method or the dress rehearsal method or the circle of 8 method. And within a short period of time, that, oh, I could never goes away. And it's replaced by, I can't wait to try this. And then for the next week, our students go out and apply what we taught them. Because in the classroom, you just become aware of certain things. When you get out there in the real world and apply it and try it out, that's when you learn it. Now, how many dialogues are there? Well, there's 101 of them, and you'll never be at a loss for words, like ever. Here's a couple examples of things that if you learn how to say these things, now say them in your own words, use your own vocabulary, your own style, but think of the concept behind each of these dialogues. Here's one. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, before we begin, may I show you how I work? Boy, the confidence you have when you sit at the kitchen table before you've looked at the house, before you've done anything except make small talk, and you look them in the eye and say, before we begin, which is a signal that we haven't started yet, so there's no defensiveness. May I, which is good manners, and holy cow, good manners will set you apart from everybody else out there, literally. May I show you, not tell you, show you how I work. And you lay out your agenda and they agree to it. And who's in control for the rest of that appointment? You are. You'll never be at a loss for words if you just remember that phrase, say it in your own words. Here's another one. Assuming we can agree on a price tonight, would you be ready to get the ball rolling? Assuming we could agree on a price. Yeah, now when you say it is important, but listen to what that accomplishes. It eliminates all that stuff at the end when they say, well, we're going to think about it, or well, we're going to fix it up first, or well, we're going to talk to other people. Now you've eliminated all of that commotion at the end when you got to think, I got to shoehorn these people into a decision. No, you never have to do that. If you get them to say along the way, hey, assuming we could agree on a price. Yeah. Here's another one. What was it about this house that caught your eye? Somebody walks into your open house. Thank you for coming. Maybe you do your sign in, but conversationally, if this is all you ever accomplish at the open house. So what was it about this house that caught your eye? All of a sudden, here's what you'll know from those people. What's their dominant buying motive? It'll come out. Here's another dialogue we teach. If I asked you to, would you be willing to refer me? Now, almost everybody says yes to that. By the way, if you ask somebody, would you be willing to refer me if I asked you to, and they say, no, not on your life, not if you put a gun to my head. Well, don't call them again, cross them off your list. But almost always they say, sure. Yeah, you want to develop referral business by generating referred leads. They don't cost you anything. And almost always when you ask, would you be willing? They say yes. Another great Whitman dialogue. Are you familiar with the highest price analysis? Now, everybody says, have you had a CMA? Did you do his estimate? You know, everybody says that. But when you're Whitman trained, when you get the Whitman dialogue, you know, I'm doing a highest price analysis. You'll get it. What's that? Oh, well, that's a tool that's unique to our company. What it is, it's a bird's eye view of the current market. It shows you homes that are currently for sale, so you know what you're competing with. It also shows you homes that have actually sold, so we know what buyers are willing to pay for a home like yours in this market today. Oh, and it also shows you homes that didn't sell, so we know what buyers are not willing to pay. And what it'll help us do is pinpoint the highest price you can ask and avoid selling your home for less than it's worth. Would something like a highest price analysis be of interest to you? And when they hear that, when you can do that, now, how do you develop that? Well, it's simple. You practice. You practice in class, you listen over and over during the week, and you go out and you try it. And eventually, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the day after tomorrow, but if you do it enough, you get really good at it. Now, you may have thought to yourself while you were listening to me rattle these off, gee, he's pretty good. No, I'm trained. That's all. I got trained. You can too. And it's knowing what to say and how to say it and when to say it to the right people at the right time, enough times. It gives you all the confidence in the world. You'll never be at a loss for words. You'll never run into a situation where one of those 101 greatest dialogues of Floyd Whitman will pop into your head. You know, as opposed to you're confronted with a situation and you holler down to your subconscious mind, send up technique number 42, please, you know, and nothing comes up. It's repetition that gives you confidence, learning the dialogue. So, learning the dialogue and being consistent about doing the things that build your courage and learning the dialogue that gives you confidence. And doing it consistently, because variety is the spice of life and spice adds flavor but not substance. And the substance of life is consistency. You might be asking yourself, how do I develop that habit of asking for what I want? How do I develop the skill of saying what I need to say at the right moment? Well, there's two ways to do it. One is your own personal experience. Through trial and error, year after year, eventually you'll figure it out. Or you could use other people's experience. That's right. Take your God-given talent and your personality and add to it a history-proven system. So do it yourself, or let's do it together. Yeah. And we can do it together starting February 13th. So I want to thank you for being here. And just in my last minute with you, I'd like to let you know that we have a live stream program starting February 13th. That's right, a Floyd Whitman program that you can take on your computer, just like in this webinar. It's a 90-minute session on the Zoom platform, the one you're in. And one of the things the Zoom platform lets you do is get into smaller groups and practice on each other. That's how we practice the dialogue. It's Thursday, February 13th is our start date. It's 10:30 in the morning Central Time till noon. That's 90 minutes. If you're in the East Coast, take a 90-minute lunch if you have like a day gig. It's 10 weekly sessions, one session a week, 6 days in between each session for you to apply what it is that we teach. And you get all the student resources, 101 of Floyd's greatest dialogues. Yeah, and all the tools and techniques and systems that you need to succeed at this business. Now, enrollment doesn't open till next week. So again, I want to thank you for being here. Be watching for the enrollment to open and go out there. Next time you drive around the neighborhood, maybe you're on the way to Starbucks or Panera Bread, and you drive by a home and there's a for sale by owner sign in the yard, remember this webinar. Stop the car, get out. Maybe that's the best you can do that day. But the next day, you stop the car and get out and walk up to the door. And maybe that's as far as you can go that day. But the day after that, you not only stop the car and get out and walk up to the door, but you knock. And they come to the door and you say something. Would you be willing to co-broke? If I could show you how to make you more money. What? I stopped by to find out if you're interested in doing all the work and taking all the risk on your own just so you can make more money, or do you just like doing it yourself? Yeah, you'll figure it out. Thanks for being with me and with Floyd and with the Floyd Whitman team. And I want to thank Anna Johnson, our marketing director, for getting the word out to everybody. Hope to see you on February 13th. Remember, enrollment opens February 6th, and we'll see you then.